So hi everyone, as you may remember, I did this review of the Douze V2, but I need to start with I mentioned that I was kind of frustrated with the power of the torque of the Shimano motor, so I decided to, basically to replace it. Before I start, actually, I would like to make a disclaimer, which is whatever you're gonna see in this video is not for road legal use. It's not road legal in most countries, and this is not an endorsement to conduct such modification. Although the Enviolo hub at the rear is rated for 100 Newton meter at the bottom bracket, and what I'm going to put is 160 Newton meter. So if you do the same, you may damage your Enviolo hub over the long term. So why I'm here is because, well, as I said, even if it's one of the lightest cargo bikes tend to be heavy. This one is rated for 39 kilos, but naked, and I just weighted it, and with the black box, with the canopy, with the board, with everything, it is 62.5 kilograms with one battery. The motor, I had removed the second batteries that I have, and there's a bit of craps inside, but 62.5 kilograms is quite a lot. Even if you take the reason Miller, you start at 37, so you end up at roughly the same weight, and 250 watts and 70 Newton meters is clearly enough for a small bicycle, but not for a cargo bike, I think. However, the beauty of the V2, as I was mentioning, is that basically they're using exactly the same frame for the mechanical one, for the one with the Douze motor, and as well for the one with the Shimano motor. And the only thing they change is basically this adapter plate. Okay, and they change, so they have one normal bottom bracket that they adapt to these 3 points, 1, 2, and 3. They have a plate which adapt the 3 points to the anchor points of the Douze motor, and this plate I have, which is actually an aluminium plate, okay, to adapt the 3 points to the Shimano motor. And I thought, hold on, there's quite a bit of space here, right? You have quite a bit of space. So why don't you put a Bafang BBS HD? So why don't you move back to the mechanical, right? The Douze sells a mechanical kit with a bottom bracket for roughly 300 euros, 295 euros. And so why don't you do that? You put it back to manual, mechanical, and you add a BBS 01 or BBS 02, or the strongest one, the BBS HD. I designed, but the bottom bracket comes from here to here, and so you have a kind of angle, right? And then the Bafang BBS HD will fit here, but because here you don't have enough clearance, it doesn't work. So that's not great. But they have another motor, which is as well 160 Newton meter. It's referred to as the Bafang Ultra, or the Bafang M620, or the Bafang G510. They are all the same. The M620 is the interset, the motor and the system, but the motor itself is called actually the G510. And I think actually conceptually could fit. So I say, why don't I create the same adapter that I have here, but with the same 3 points, but with points for the Bafang Ultra. So what I did is that I did reach Bafang directly, and I was just amazed that very kindly they sent me the 3D file for the Bafang Ultra or M620, the 3D file that you can play with exactly precise dimensions of everything. That was good. So as well, I managed to get from Douze the precise design of the frame, okay, with the precise location of the 3 points, okay. The idea being on a CAD software, which I use Onshape, I could place the motor perfectly well, and I tried to make sure that the size of the pedal was the same, so to try not to change anything, so that, and I got that actually from Douze, that the bottom bracket was here, and I tried to position, because the motor from Bafang is much bigger, to position it exactly the same, okay? And Then actually I wanted to make sure that before getting the plate CNC machined, I wanted to make sure that it fitted. So actually I ordered the Bafang motor directly from Bafang. By the way, you don't need to buy it on eBay or Alibaba, AliExpress. You can reach out to, there's a guy called Robin at Bafang, lovely guy, and you pay actually much less than AliExpress, despite the very expensive shipping. So actually the motor itself is $410. I'll show you later the pricing from Bafang directly. Be careful though, that the new Bafang Ultra since 2021, Bafang used to use the UART communication system, and which was highly, I mean, you could change almost everything yourself very easily. And now any motor that you buy from Bafang, all of them, throughout the range, they come with a CAN bus communication system, which is the same as the cars, and it is heavily locked, so you cannot modify much of the parameters. So just be aware, unless you buy actually the Bafang device with your computer, you open an account with them, and then you start to be able to fiddle like if you were a cycle shop. But so I ordered the motor. Okay, it arrived, perfect. It is just here. I'll show you later. Okay, and then I started to 3D print basically because I'm lucky enough to have a 3D printer. 3D prints these parts. And so based on the file that I got from Bafang and from Douze, I came up actually with this adapter plate. Okay, they are split because my 3D printer is not big enough. Okay, but basically there's two sides. Okay, the idea is to have one here, okay, and one here on both sides of the frame, right? And so that's basically the same, exactly the same design as a Bafang shell, right, where the Bafang motor comes into, fits into. And here I designed 3 holes here, here, and here, which fits exactly the design of the Douze cycle 3 points. Okay, and basically these two are carbon copy. And so when you do that on the motor, right, there's one that comes here, and the other one comes here. Okay, and I made sure that it did fit perfectly. And I tried to fit this motor, okay, the Bafang Ultra, into the frame with this adapter plate. It's not perfect because there's this split because of my 3D printer is not big enough. But I was amazed. It did fit perfectly well. So then what did I do? Well, actually, I managed to find in China, I started to get quotes for CNC machining. So that's in Aluminium 6061. It is anodized in black. Okay, I just got one copy, but it's extremely precise. I mean, the quality of the manufacturing I managed to get. Okay, it's pretty amazing. So that's where the motor fits, and that's basically the same plate as the other one. So it looks fairly professional. I tried to cut the cost by, instead of having round, so at least you see here on the Bafang you have round edges. Here I made them flat, so it's cheaper to manufacture. It's easier, and it fits up perfectly well. Okay, so what you end up with is I try to fit it as well, and so when I receive you need to be aware that it is so tight here, right? That these bolts, okay, which come with the motor, were painted in black, and I had to sand down the paint, otherwise it doesn't fit here. It's super tight, but that's the way it should be. Okay, and so I ordered as well. That's all this stuff actually come from Bafang. I ordered this C18 display, which has Bluetooth. Okay, brake stuff. And what I said as well is that, okay, with the Shimano I have one battery which is 500 watts. Well, actually I have two. Okay, but let's make it bigger. Okay, let's go for almost 2000 watt-hour battery. So here I bought this battery from Germany, from a company called Enerprof.de. Well, basically I think they're the only guys in Europe who make quality stuff. I didn't want to buy anything from China. So it's a bit big, but keep in mind I put this protection stuff so that it's going to be in the cargo, in the black box. So it's for bumping protection. Okay, but it's a 40 amp hour, 48 volt battery. So if you do the math, you end up with almost 2000 watt hour, i.e. 4 times the size of the Shimano battery, for roughly the same price actually as one Shimano battery. Anyway, and that comes with that actually to connect directly to the bike. That comes with a charging it's called XLR charger, right? And I thought, hold on, the battery from Shimano, actually, my batteries, I've lost a lot of power after just 1 year because the charger is crap and charges full blast. So, hey, because I have a bit of spare money and I will come down to the cost a bit later, why don't I offer myself a cycle satiator, right? I mean, that's basically one of the most expensive charger you can find. Okay, so I got it, and I can charge at the rate I want, up to 5 amp hours, so up to 5 amps. I can charge at whatever voltage I want, right? So I can charge 50%, 60%, 70%. I just set up profiles, and that's great. Yeah. And so, by the way, on the CNC machining, if you ever do it, I mean, I can tell you it's a joke. I get quotes from all over the place. Well, I managed to buy these plates for roughly 200 euros shipped to where I live in Europe, right? And I got prices from, it was like 400 euros from Europe, so 200 euros in China, but China sometimes quoted me for 1,000 euros. I mean, just ridiculous, despite the fact that German manufacturers were doing it for 400. I mean, it's basically a jungle, the CNC machining. So yeah, please be aware. But so we're gonna try to fit that on this cargo bike and come back a bit later. Okay, take care. So first intermediate step done. I've removed the motor. It's here. So that's the Shimano. And one thing for sure is that it is damn light. I mean, one Bafang tells you that it's 5.5 kilos. Okay, I measured it at 7.7 naked for the Bafang Ultra. This one is just super light. But so as you see, there's a lot of space, and you have these 3 points here. Okay. So what I've done though is that in these 3 pins, in these 3 holes, you have these pins here. Okay, these 3 here on one side, and these 3 screws here on the other side. They are the same for the new plates. Okay, so they're gonna fit perfectly well. So let's go to the next stage, which is to fit the Bafang Ultra in this frame. So quick update, 10 minutes later. So I've removed the battery here, which is here. Completely removed the motor. I've removed my gear stuff and this stuff which was meant to trick the motor to go a bit faster. And as I was saying, so these are the new plates, and as you can see here, here and here, they fit perfectly, and just below here will come the motor. Okay, and the only thing that left to cable are the front light, rear light, to put the speed sensor, new speed sensor here. All this cabling I've removed, and I'm gonna remove the display, and that's pretty much it. So we are getting close. Hello, so quick update, probably 30 minutes later, 40 minutes later, because I've had to solder the front and rear light. But so here it is. So I've removed that part. I've put the new speed sensor, which is routed through here. So that's the new frame. Here, the center, the main cable that goes to the battery, is basically going through here under, and that the long cable that goes to the display and so on go through the main route. So there's going to be only 2 cables going out from here. The light is the same, it's here, so it's reconnected to the motor. And I've put all the wiring here, which is going to be covered here. So here there's a bit of space, but well, we can fill it up, or at a later stage if you want to make it nicer. Okay, and so as I was saying, this crank is almost at the same spot. I mean, there's half a centimeter delta versus the old position on the Shimano steps. Okay, see you later. So quick update. I'm not gonna lie, it's so tight that it took some time to put the motor. So if you had a couple of pair of hands, that would be useful instead of alone. But it's fitted. It fits perfectly well. As well, be careful here. There's a hole for the cover, so you need to pass all the cables on the back, right? And then so that's the main cable that goes to the battery. It has to go through here. That's for the display. It has to go through here. So that's going to be the only two cables. Then that's the speed sensor going here, the cable, and all the stuff go through here. So it's going to be fairly neat. I'll come back in 2 seconds. Close. I've installed almost everything. So I've installed the display. I've installed the control. Everything is tied. So that's the front brake. So it's not to be tied. Pedals are on. That's torque at 35 Newton meter, but counterclockwise. And the chain is on. That said, before it was a 36 tooth, and I moved to 16 at the rear, right, to go faster. Okay, initially when the Douze is delivered, it comes with an 18. So here actually the chain is just okay with the swing, with the arm, right? But if I were to have kept the 18, it might be borderline. Okay. What Douze does when there's a derailleur at the back, they have this piece, okay, piece of plastic, okay, which is basically actually a kind of big screw that tightens here, right? And that stuff slides depending on where the chain goes on the derailleur. Actually, I bought this piece from Douze for 40 euros, crazy price. And actually, I even made a 3D print of it in case actually this one break, so that I don't have to pay 40 euros again and just spend 5 euros on plain in filament on 3D printing. But basically I've put it in place here, even if I don't need it. If, because of the torque, I end up needing it, then actually that should be able to protect the frame by just getting the chain on it and resting on it and protecting the frame. Okay, so we'll try to connect the battery. So here inside, so the battery cable comes here, okay, and that's a plus and minus, and the idea is to put the battery just here, just behind the kids. Okay. So first feedback. So I've installed everything. So the battery now is inside, right? So the battery is basically here, right? It's big, but hold on. So it's here. The minus is here. The cable here is a bit long, so that's basically with everything. There's a bit of a, the reactivity of the motor is not as good as a Shimano, clearly. There's always a bit of lag. So here I've created this, I've added this engine motor stopper, just in case, but it doesn't change much, to be honest. It's not super reactive. It does work well though, and there's no issue. I tried the throttle. I'm not going to add it yet, but that could be an option. It's quite good actually. Noise-wise, it's fairly similar in terms of level at the Shimano. Now the noise is kind of different in that it's more metallic. That has to do with the fact that it's, the 3 gears are metallic here. Well, actually the Shimano there's a nylon gear, but clearly when you want to pull 160 Nm, you have to put everything metallic. You will have noticed now that you can see that it's a Bafang because the cover that I had here fell off, was kind of destroyed because it's very narrow. Here it's too narrow, so I'm gonna have to create a new one. Now in terms of space below, you see that it's just perfect. You cannot even slide a finger below it. Here on this wheel, clearly the chain is perfect with the 16 at the rear. I think that with the 18 might be just a bit borderline, but I prefer to keep it here. You will have to be careful though in terms of polarity for the lighting, rear and back. I had soldered the stuff the wrong way around, so it didn't work, so I had to switch it. But now it's working fine. There's the rear and front light. So here you can see I decided to go on the amp, but everything works. That's pretty sweet. Clearly the Bafang is not as refined as the Shimano. So when it needs more pressure on the pedal. The fact is that that's a new version, so it is not tunable unless you have a device from Bafang and an account and so on. So they almost start to close down the openness of the system, which used to use UART. Now it's CAN bus, clearly. So if you want to change the settings of the motor, you will need to either register with Bafang and buy a €200 device. That might be over the top. So what I'm going to do now is to use that for a week and to report in a week to provide a full background on how it rides, if it's easier or not. I mean, I live where it's relatively in a place where it's relatively hilly. It's not really flat, so I'll see. But for now, for basically you'll see the cost. But for the cost, I think it's highly justifiable versus. The drawbacks are justifiable versus the benefits of the Shimano. Okay, and then actually in the next part, I will provide a full background, a full feedback on how it rides for a week. Electricity, the weight difference, the cost difference. So hold on to a sec. So I'm back actually, so the Bafang is now fully installed and I tried to take a few measurements to compare the Shimano steps to the Bafang M620. I've done 66.6 kilometers, but maybe actually let's start with the price, okay? So here actually the column to look at is this one. It's everything in euro, everything implies a VAT of 20%, just for the sake of the argument. So what I've looked is how much does Douze 6 charges for a Shimano Steps E8000 plus one battery of 504 watt-hour, right? So what I've done is that I've looked at the V2, what they call mechanic, so the simple with just a bottom bracket, okay, no motor, no battery, and they charge 5,386 delivered. Then I looked at the one with Shimano Steps, okay, exactly the same configuration with the canopy, with whatever, everything actually the same, right? And they charge 7,586. That means that for the motorization itself plus one battery, okay, they charge €2,200 sharp, not a penny more, not a penny less. So let's see actually how much I've spent actually to change this motorization. Okay, so the battery itself, which is an almost 2,000 watt-hour battery, okay, delivered VAT paid of 20%, €797. Okay, then the charger, I bought a cycle satiator, okay, €335. Okay, you can't really get better than satiator. Okay, so the motor itself, okay, bought directly from Bafang, the C18, Bluetooth, whatever, including shipping, including VAT of 20%. Okay, the shipping was $150, FYI, so quite a lot. Yet, I paid the full thing €666. There is as well the CNC plates and the shipping. Okay, so forget the labor, the time I spent to do it, but the cost actually was €206 for only one item, right? So the total cost of this game of retrofitting a different motor was basically €2,004. Okay, so €200 less than what Douze 6 charges. And so what do I end up with? Basically, so if you were to go for, it doesn't really make sense necessarily financially to buy a Shimano and then to revert to a Bafang, right? You double pay. I did it actually for a specific reason. But if you wanted to consider a motorization and a Shimano specifically, or even actually a Bros, well, you may consider buying a mechanical one, get the CNC plating done, the charger and everything, to end up actually with something which is 8.9% cheaper than the Shimano. Okay, but it comes with drawbacks. We'll come back to that. A torque which is allegedly 2.3 times higher. Okay, but be careful. The Enviolo hub at the back is not gonna like it if you put it full blast. Okay, so you may monitor that. The battery capacity, which in watt-hour is 3.8 times larger. Okay, it's not meaningless. Okay, okay. Now there's a few drawbacks. Okay, let's start actually with the weight. I mean, clearly having a much larger battery. Okay, so the Bafang states that the motor is 5.5 kilos. I weighted the motor itself at 7.2 kilos. So clearly you cannot trust what Bafang tells you on their datasheet. Clearly. Okay, but so I did actually the weighting with a scale, right? Front and rear with the Shimano steps, okay, with all my mess inside and so on. And with the canopy, with the seats, with everything in it, right? With everything inside, the stuff comes at 62.5 kilos. Now I did again the same calculation with the Bafang, and it's 72.1. So you gain almost 10 kilos. It's not meaningless, huh? But in percentage term, it's only 15%. And yet, keep in mind that you have a battery which is much, much heavier. So actually, most of the difference comes from the battery, which is much heavier. Okay? Now, question mark is how efficient the motor is, because a more capacitative battery doesn't mean that you're going to get further away. So I did two measurements. That's with the Shimano steps, and that's with the Bafang. So with the Shimano, the first thing I did 14.8 kilometers. The 10.8 is because, you know, I had my fake system that tricked the motor to think that it was going slower than it was actually going. So the odometer on the Shimano was wrong. So I recalculated based on Google Map and the ratio I knew. Okay? And I ended up with 14.8 kilometers. Now, how many watt hour did I have to recharge the battery? I had to put back 259 watt hour, meaning that per 100 kilometer, the Shimano eats up 1750 watt hour per one. No, it's not kilowatt hour, it's watt hour. So 1.75 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometer. I did another one, right? And I did this time 20.3 kilometer. I had to load back 356 watt, not kilowatt, but watt. And I come to 1,755. Keep in mind, it's quite hilly where I am. Okay, so it's quite steep, go up and go down. Okay, I did the same stuff, but different route and actually steeper road, right, with a new configuration. And with two kids actually in the bike for most of it. Okay, and I did basically yesterday 66.6 kilometer on the odometer. Okay, with arguably a good 40 kilo extra in the cargo with the two kids plus the 10 kilo delta. What do I end up with? I had to load with the satiator at 1,177 watt hour, meaning that how many watt hour does it do per 100 kilometer? 1,767, meaning that the efficiency of the motor actually looks like Bafang is more efficient than the Shimano steps. Okay, most of it actually was done on level 5 to 6 out of 9 pedal assist. So arguably, assuming a linear torque per pedal assist, more torque than on the Shimano, and even actually some throttle, which uses a lot of battery. Now let's come to a few drawbacks as well. So the noise. So I did actually a comparison actually just in my garage. Same speed, same ratio, and same speed, right? And I come actually with the Shimano at, okay, it was roughly at, forget the max and whatever, but that's the kind of 80 line, okay? I did the same stuff with the Bafang, and actually it was slightly more quiet, okay? But what I noticed is that different things. The Bafang actually kicks in. You need to push harder on the pedal to kick in, okay? So clearly, the Bafang is not as refined as the Shimano, that's for sure, right? It's more noisy actually when you use it, except actually when you pedal and you're on high gear and it's fine, okay? Then you have the wind and you don't hear it, you don't even notice it, right? As well, something which is a bit annoying on the Bafang is that it takes basically a good second and a half to kick in, okay? So in the meantime, you have to press relatively hard, and then actually to disengage, there's a good 1 second delay. Okay, my understanding is that can be set up, okay, on the UART version, meaning the old version of the Bafang Ultra. On the CAN bus, it is not yet tunable, definitely not yourself. You may need to buy the BESST stuff, but I'm not even sure that which is the mechanic device, okay, which is almost like when you go to to your Volkswagen, Audi, whatever car dealer. That's what they plug on your machine. So now that everything is CAN bus, they have kind of locked up the system. But you can actually speed up the engagement and disengagement, and you can as well set up the torque. So hopefully soon you're going to be able to do it yourself, to set up at what level of torque the motor of the torque sensor, the motor kicks in. Okay, and that might be easier to do. I mean, easier to do and more enjoyable as well. On this new version, the throttle, right? Whether you're on PAS1 or PAS9, you start the throttle, it goes automatically to PAS9. So you get actually much more power, and you need to be careful with the chain. So the first chain, actually, it was very weird because I've put the exact same chain as I had before, right? A SRAM 971, I think. And it basically snapped after 20 kilometers. So I had to change part of the chain, right? I don't know, it has to do with the chain ring at the front, which is different. At the back, it's exactly same, identical, same stuff. But I had to change actually a few links, right? A few links to that length, right? So I have a quick connect here, a few links now, and another quick connect. And yesterday I did basically 46.6 kilometers, more loaded on steeper inclines, and it was fine. And even actually with some throttle, which is throwing quite a lot of power. Okay, now do I feel the difference between 70 and 160? Maybe not that as much as I would have expected. Okay, maybe I'm a bit paranoid and I was not pushing as hard as I could have, because actually I was scared of snapping my chain again and ending up grounded actually with 2 crying child. But I have the feeling that first you need to put more effort on the Bafang than on the Shimano. Okay, you can go much faster. I mean, clearly with the on ground level, you can go easy 45 km an hour. Frankly, no issue whatsoever. Okay, I have a ratio of 44 at the front, so the teeth ratio, 44 teeth at the front, 16 at the back. I think that's probably the right level. So even when you go 45, you still pedal quite a bit. Okay, but it's okay. It's acceptable. But on the inclined, the thing though is that, as I said, with the Enviolo, it might be easier actually with the chain, but because of the delay, when you stop pedaling to change gear, you need to stop pedaling, then you need to wait for the motor to disengage, so one second, and by then actually you lose quite a bit of speed, right? Then you engage, and then you need to start again. So and it needs a bit of practice, but I think it will be great actually once the Bafang actually, once someone actually out there finds a way to tune the CAN bus version, which I have, as easily as a UART. So to summarize, you pay again 9% less for 15.4% heavier, but very importantly a battery that's going to go much further, 3.8 times, and clearly the efficiency of the motor is very good. So you can easily claim that basically you can do easily 100 km on one charge without destroying your battery. Okay, and I'm talking 100 km loaded, but actually with the Shimano I was clearly going 25-30 kilometers with one battery, and that was it. And you get actually a much robust charger, I mean the associator, so you can preserve your battery a lot, seriously a lot. That's the king of the chargers, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so if you need any help, please let me know. Happy to help you. If you want the plate, let me know. Again, as a disclaimer, this is only for private road use. It's in most countries 1000 watt, or let alone actually deal restricted pedal assist bikes are absolutely illegal. You will not be covered if you have an accident with it or anything. So be very careful, and I take no responsibility for it. But yeah, definitely buying. I think that buying, if you wanted to take the risk and you wanted to buy a mechanical V2 and get that stuff, yes, that makes sense as long as you are on private road. Okay, have a very nice day. Take care.